Okay. Okay. Tell me if you hear me now. What's going on with my mic? I decided to use this in a different way. I see where it went bad. Let's see. Let's see. Check. Check. Cool. Cool. All right. Tell me if you see me now in the chat, man. That was crazy. But I get it now. I definitely get it now. So for all y'all that don't know, I was doing the 80s and 90s and da 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 da, et cetera, et cetera. And what happened was I had a bad start. So we about to see if this working right now. All right, let's get back to it. Sorry about that, fam. What up, man? And now I could do this properly. So I was talking about sports, right? About the 80s, the 90s, the 2000s with a homeboy of mine. And what happened was me and my dog, we was talking about how we become the old men. He said we the old men in the group now. And now we saying back in the day when I was a kid, it was better. So for real, I'm like, yeah, 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 yeah. What happened? And I'm like, well, what happened was people got better. People think people got better. You know what I'm saying? So this is just a sports talk today. People really think that, the younger generation is better than the older generation for whatever reason, right? I beg to differ. So I'm gonna make it about sports and music, but this is of course a Manosphere channel, so I'm gonna make it Manosphere stuff in a second too. In the 80s, the 90s, 2000s, here was the issue. The issue was people broke records back then. You know what I'm saying? People broke records back then. The things that people did in the 80s, 90s, and 2000s, or the people who were active in the 80s, 90s, and 2000s, they're better than everybody else. And I was going backwards and I was going forward because my homeboy was like, look, when you talking about boxing, heavyweights, it was the Ali era. And I was like, that's the problem. But it was the Ali era because they was the only people y'all was talking about. Ali, Frazier, Foreman, you get what I'm saying, Liston, it's like, five fighters or whatever, right? So I was like, but think about the 80s, 90s, and 2000s. Then you have the major four in the 80s, which was Leonard, Hearns, Hagler, Duran, right? That was the 80s, right? And then you had Tyson, but people didn't see him have the greatest competition like they want to say, right? The 90s became a free fall. You had Oscar, you had Roy, you had Floyd Early. You get what I'm saying? You had Sugar Shane. You had B Hop was basically started in the 90s and whatnot. You got James Tony, and you had people in these groups that were killing folks. It was just straight up monsters. Like 80s had more people, Alex Arguello. You could throw Salvador Sanchez in the back end, but even Julio Cesar Chavez, that's 80s, 90s or whatever. But now, fam, we got it all together. So it's like looking at football. I'm like, listen, man, I haven't seen the type of players that are from the 80s and 90s and 2000s. I haven't. I, we haven't seen another. We're not going to see another Barry Sanders. But everybody talking about Deion Sanders prime. You ain't seen another prime. You haven't seen another prime. What's up, fam? You haven't seen another prime, and you're not going to see another one. You ain't seen another Ed Reed. Not going to see another one. Adrian Peterson was like the second coming of Walter Payton, in my opinion. But you're not going to see another. Can you see Adrian Peterson again? I don't know. I don't think so. You think you're going to see another Randy Moss? Nope. Jerry Rice, before Randy, T.O. You know what I'm saying? All them three. You don't see anything close to that. I thought about baseball. I was like, yo, man, I haven't seen that. There's no replacement for Ricky Henderson. I ain't even got to go to Barry Bonds. There's no replacement really for Ken Griffey. You're not gonna see another Bo Jackson and Deion Sanders doing two sports. You don't see that anymore. That's what that was. My homeboy don't really know I'm live right now, but I'm gonna hit him up later. So you don't see this type of stuff. I brought up basketball. I know the Jordan LeBron thing. Jordan LeBron. Who's the GOAT? Kobe and all that. That the 80s people don't really know about. That's Magic and Bird. 90s you consider Jordan. 2000s that's Kobe and Tim Duncan, really, right? But after that, man, AI and all them in there. You're not seeing what you used to see. And why to me is problematic is because of this. It becomes problematic because at the end of the day, what you're starting to see is, how can I say this gently? You're starting to see people lack skills. They lack skills, but at the same time, we consider them to be great. And I don't think it's a good look. I don't see it as a good look. I don't think it's a good look. I think it's pretty horrible, to be perfectly honest. So now, we stuck in a space where you got people playing this game of, oh man, your boy is the best. It's like, no, he's not. He's not even close to being the best. This person is the greatest of all time. They're not the closest to being the greatest of all time. They're not. Because, they fly for a few games. Ja Morant is the S talker of all time. No. He can't look, he can't out talk Gary Payton. Even like, think about it. Could Ja Morant out talk Gary Payton? Or Larry Bird? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. That's what, back in the day, guys would say, we're the men's men. We're the man. Where the men's men at? So I told you, my bad. And now you're seeing it. I'm seeing people do too much. So now I'm gonna slow down and I'm gonna really get ugly about the things I'm about to say. 80s, 90s, 2000s, musically. Nobody has to question the 80s. Michael Jackson, Prince, Whitney Houston, Luther Vandross, just to say a few. Just to say a few. Now I'm very partial to the Motown era. I really am. But the 80s was the culmination of the Motown era, and people got better and better and better. Marvin Gaye is the standard. Smokey Robinson is the standard. You get what I'm saying? Isaac Hayes is standard. Curtis Mayfield is standard. Donny Hathaway is standard. But in the 80s, they became superstars. And what did that trickle into the 90s? The 90s had, big, musically, you had big selling groups that people forget about. Drew Hill is forgotten. They shouldn't be. People are still trying to be Jodeci. And did I leave out New Edition? No, because they were the first. New Edition, was the second coming of the Jackson 5, basically. But they restarted the boy band era, which the New Kids on the Block and all that, they took that. But the 80s to the 90s was pretty much a lot of bands. A lot of bands. Thank you. Boys to Men. Musically, it was higher. SWV, you know what I'm saying? Escape. What is it? They had the smaller group. Groove Theory only had one song that we love. The Fugees was in the 90s. Like, people, Outkast started in the 90s. Wu-Tang, 90s. And I'm not talking about small acts. I'm talking about huge acts. You know what? You cold blood. Silk was bumping though. You right. The Meeting in My Bedroom got remixed. The 2000s. You can't, even with Destiny's Child was the late 90s. They started in the late 90s. They blew up more in the 2000s, but they started in the late 90s, so 90s, 2000s. And I look at it and I'm saying to myself, like, 90s, 2000s, Jay-Z. Well, first of all, Tupac, Biggie, late 90s. I mean, the late 90s. Then you got Jay-Z, DMX, Nelly, 50 Cent, Eminem. And it's like, see, Cash Money was taking over from the 99 to the 2000s. People forget all that. And what I'm getting at is, you know, thank you. There's more creativity and originality in those eras. And those people had to be good. Because in the 80s, rappers used to have to be, you know, opening acts for Morris Day and the Time and stuff like that. They wasn't playing. There was not. It was no game. You gonna get washed off the stage playing with these guys. And then you look at the sales. 80s, nobody outsold Michael Jackson. Nobody, he outsold Prince, but that's Prince was super up there. People don't realize, Whitney Houston sold over 100 million. I want to say that the Vandross was up there. And mind you, I left out R. Kelly in the 90s because I didn't even get the solo artists like that. That's R&B. People forget how many albums Joe sold in the 90s. People forget Genuine in the 90s, 2000s, how many albums he actually sold. I think Genuine almost sold more albums than Aaliyah. I might be wrong, but he was really big. People forget that. You know what I'm saying? People forget how big, how can I do this properly? Because I don't want to. I'm trying to see. Sade made a resurgence like in the 90s, 2000s, but she was huge in the 80s, right? When she came back, and people kind of forget that part. But Lovers Rock was huge. But then Cisco went solo, so went super platinum. But Bobby Brown went crazy, BBD went crazy, Johnny Gill went crazy. Ralph Tresvant was like the only one that. And I'm going from the 80s to the 90s because I left out Onyx when I was thinking about the groups. And it's a lot of freaking people. I'm trying to keep it low key, but it's a lot of freaking people. He said Sade is not your wife, Playboy. You can't have Sade. Even though her daughter fine though. She fine though. Casey and JoJo when they went on their way. So now, why am I saying what I'm saying? In rap, I think Hammer, Vanilla Ice, Eminem, 50 Cent, and I think Nelly were the only rappers to have a diamond album that didn't have a double album. He said the 70s is probably the best era. Ali, Pele, bro, this is America. This is America. Reggae was all Bob Marley to us. The funk was the joint though. Ali is a man. But the 70s, nah, bro. I can't do it because it was in the 70s, it was just the Steelers and the Cowboys in the 70s. That's how most people in the 70s, that's why that's their favorite two teams, these the Steelers or the Cowboys. So there's only really two football teams. Basketball, it was still kind of like, basketball was on the ropes. It was about to go under. And if it wasn't for, because what? Magic and Bird came in the late 70s. So their run was in the 80s where they brought back the league with Mike. Can't do that. You know what I'm saying? The funk bands, funk died out with disco and R&B took over. You know what I'm saying? So reggae was, Reggae to us was just Bob Marley. If we figured out Peter Tosh and all them other cats back after that, and I got to tell you, the '80s and '90s, particularly the '90s, that's when dance hall really started kicking off. And dance hall to me is just Caribbean rap music, but they was killing it, boy. Rap and R&B. Everybody from Shaka Demus and Plies to yeah, the '80s players weren't overrated. They weren't. The great ones weren't overrated. The great ones. Here's the thing: the great players of the '80s wasn't overrated because most of them made it to the '90s, and the people from the '90s who made it to the 2000s to tell you, yeah, they was like that. They was like that. That's why you got guys who played in the '90s that tell you Larry Bird was like that because they was around. They had to play against the Dream Team. He was like that. Magic was like that. Mike, we already know, was like that. Pippen was there. Shaba, Patra. You know what I'm saying? They was like that. I can, and the reason like I said, I'm bringing this up. I'm gonna make it like a manosphere talking point in a sense where people don't realize how serious this gets. And what I mean by serious, bro, we live in an era where people say, "Man, I'm different. I'm built different. I'm different," and they're not different. They're not different. Everybody is just an amalgamation of somebody who said they was different and they're not. So now I gotta go. You know what, bro? I don't think y'all get it. Y'all need to go back and look at the productivity and the excellence that gets overlooked. You know, when the Manosphere Golden Era is probably, look, I ain't even talking about the Manosphere right now, but I feel you on that. But that's the thing. Right now, let's go football. Let me start with football. We say Tom Brady is the GOAT. That's what we say. Tom Brady is the GOAT. Tom Brady won 7 Super Bowls. He the GOAT. I can't argue with Tom Brady being one of the greatest of all time. I cannot argue with that. I got immense respect for Tom Brady, but I'm not putting him over Joe Montana. I'm just being honest with you. I'm not putting him over Joe Montana. Joe Montana never, see, if you want to use that argument with and Brady started really in the 90s. We look at him as a GOAT now, right? But let's be real. Joe Montana, 5-0 in Super Bowls. 5-0. Jerry Rice, could be considered. Jerry Rice is probably the greatest football player of all time. You can make an argument with Jerry Rice, Lawrence Taylor, Joe Montana, Tom Brady. Is it 70s, 80s? I just can't bring the 70s in, dog. I wanted to, but I can't. But Jim Brown was the 60s, bro. Jim Brown was the 60s. Jim Brown was not the 70s. Jim Brown was Jim Brown during the Civil Rights Movement. So you ain't throwing Jim Brown in there. That's the issue. One of my good friends just hit me up. I can't talk right now because I'm doing this. Hold on. I'm gonna let it. Hold up. I don't know why my phone rings at the oddest time. If Drew Bledsoe wouldn't have gotten hurt, because Drew was nice. Jim Brown is one of the greatest players of all time, but he ain't. I got to give Jim Brown his props. I shouldn't have left him out of the greatest of all time. You're right. But Jerry Rice is far and away the greatest football player of all time. There's no catching Jim. There's no catching Jerry. None. He so I got to go with the 80s. The 80s was, in football wise, that's a difficult conversation. Basketball wise, it's either the 90s or the 2000s. Baseball wise, you can say the 80s or 90s. You really can. The 80s or 90s is probably the best baseball players. OJ and Gail Sayers, bro. Okay, OJ and Gail Sayers was the 70s. No. Gail Sayers was not the 70s. Gail Sayers was the 50s and 60s. If I want to say that, it's almost like using PED for receipt. Try to tell you folks, man. First of all, what was it? Fred Barishnikov or Belitnikov. He was the one with the sticker. My bad. I read the bottom first. Belitnikov was the one with the sticker. That was the white guy from the Raiders. That was his thing, you know. But as far as stickum goes, they made the glove stickum. That's what they did. In the 90s, they made the glove stickum. Life started getting lit. I'm trying to tell you, fools, man. I'm trying to tell you like that. The 80s was the springboard for everything. Like all you grown folks, think about it. Right now, 2023, there are certain songs that come out that bring all black people together, that bring all adults together. And you know what's funny? Most of them are 80s songs. Frankie Beverly and Mays, that's 70s, but later on it's the 80s. You get what I'm saying? So Frankie Beverly and Mays in the South, of course Luther Vandross, of course Michael Jackson, of course Prince. Like, y'all don't get like now they doing Juvenile, and I'm about to get trifling. Tell me somebody. Matter of fact, since I'm finna get ugly about this. I'm sorry for the disrespect that I'm about to say. Why I said the 80s, I did it with sports and music, right? I'm gonna explain something to y'all. The food was better in the 80s, 90s, and 2000s. We got black people that can't even cook soul food no more. See, we had real people back then that was doing real stuff. Y'all can't even do everything that's considered black as far as, culture, whether it be sports, whether it be music. Y'all can't even do that no more. Y'all can't even do it no more. I see y'all all online. It's lit. It's lit. Is it? Is it? I see y'all listening to the old 3 6 Mafia songs, dancing at. Really? Really? That's the best dance you got? That's the best dance you got, bro? Like you an old man trying to catch the Holy Ghost? That's what we doing? This go back in the day. No, bro. No. We're not doing that. We're not doing this. We're not doing this, dog. Especially that whole culture was significant. 80s, 90s, 2000s. Do you know how much Freaknik, Black Bike, Daytona influenced everything, sports and entertainment in our community? Do y'all realize? I don't think y'all get it. Camp Beach Party, I don't think y'all get it. All you people, and I hate to say this, all you people, especially with sports and music, who got this whole, I came out the mean streets of Saskatchewan in Canada. It was the dope era. Man, get up out of here. You got that all from the 80s, 90s, and 2000s. You know what I'm saying? I came up in the mean streets of Sanford, Connecticut, and I made it all the way to the NFL. And everybody who came from every hood from the 80s, 90s, and 2000s, everywhere was nowhere to be. You've never heard of us. People from people from Beverly Hills will say, I was in Beverly Hills during the crack era. Beverly Hills was not Beverly Hills, it was the hood. So the animosity was bigger. So people were more aggressive, more creative, more talented, and you couldn't, if you wasn't excellent, you couldn't come out. You see, there were gatekeepers back in the 80s, 90s, and 2000s. You couldn't come out if you wasn't legit. Some of y'all don't realize It was so bad. Think about it. Doug Williams won the Super Bowl in like what, 85? That was the first black quarterback to win the Super Bowl. Do you realize when was the next black quarterback to win the Super Bowl? Was it Russell Wilson? Think about it. Like how far did it go? It went to Russell Wilson, if I'm not mistaken. And now we're talking about, oh, Pat Mahomes, da 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 da. You know, so it's crazy. People talk about, oh, like I was looking at something because I used to be a baseball fan as a kid. How many pitchers you gonna see with a 300 or more wins in this era? How many? I think the last person to get over 700 homers was Albert Pujols, and that fool he's probably the greatest athlete of the 2000 generation because I think he started like in 2001 or something like that. But everybody else going on drugs and fizzle out. Think about it. Sports and entertainment, 80s, 90s, 2000s. You know how I know this for sure? Everybody who a sneakerhead then had Jordans, Deion Sanders, Bo Jacksons, Kobe's, Reebok pumps, the answer, Allen Iverson sneaker, Penny Hardaways. They had a pair of pennies. It was the foam posits. Them was some ugly shoes, dog. I'm sorry. Ken Griffey's. A lot of this stuff that when y'all got the Air Maxes and the Huaraches, that's 80s and 90s. Because the Barkley had sneakers. Like all this stuff y'all seeing right now. I hate to break the news to y'all, but I doubt it. What's up, Lowcast? I doubt it. I doubt like who's the last cornerback in the NFL that got a sneaker? I like Darrell Reeves, but there was no Air Reeveses. He ain't had no sneakers like Deion Sanders. You get what I'm saying? Randy Moss didn't have shoes. Jerry Rice didn't have shoes. Walter Payton had shoes. They was kangaroos. When Walter Payton stopped playing football, kangaroos went out of business. Think about it. 80s, 90s, 2000s, the best. Musically, sports-wise, the best. The reason I'm getting on this kick is very, very simple. Let me see if I could. Let me see something. Hold up, y'all. I'm gonna see if this can happen. And what I'm about to say, some people be like, blasphemy. No, it ain't. I can make an argument. Because me and my dog was talking about college sports too. I was like, dude, I don't even watch college sports no more. Because these guys sorry. I'm sorry. I ain't seen nobody from a small school do the things Marshall Faulk did in college. I didn't see nobody. I ain't seen a Tommy Frazier in college. I haven't seen because I can go past Deion Sanders. That was the 80s. I can go past that. You haven't seen how can I put this? Because he was people didn't see Randy Moss in college. Y'all really don't know how bad, how unfair that was. Y'all don't remember how good Charles Woodson was in college. Y'all don't remember, like I told my dog, I said, listen, bro, you got kids playing basketball in college and going being one and done. Have they ever averaged 30 as a freshman? Because people forget about Chris Jackson, aka Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf, averaging 30 as a freshman in college. People just what? It don't exist to people like, yeah, any of these this is a great ball player. He's the greatest. He's going to be the greatest of all time. Did he average 30 as a freshman? I don't want to hear about his scoring ability there. Jordan averaged like 19. So this dude came out averaging 30. Then he averaged like 26 and Shaq was there. That's ridiculous. I don't think these fools get it. You see people, oh man, he got a crossover. Dog, y'all really ain't seen. I've seen there have been in the 90s in particular, the 90s to the 2000s in particular, I'll say more than 90s though, but it wound up going into the 2000s. There were schools where one player came there and the school just was phenomenal. Did anybody want to go to Memphis State, which is now the University of Memphis? Penny took that. Penny was so good. He took that school and brought it on the map and took them fools and wound up being in the movie. Glenn Robinson. Ain't nobody been to Milwaukee since, really. You know what I'm saying? Exactly. People forget, like UNLV. Who they? UNLV, yeah. They was tied to the mob. Larry Johnson and Stacey Augmon. And they wasn't even the MVP of the Final Four. It's the white dude that was shooting all the time. Y'all don't remember. Like, yo, who was rocking with Georgia Tech? Nobody. And then Stephon Marbury went there. We was like, who the hell? Not everybody going to Georgia Tech. Then I'm like, wait, Georgia Tech? That don't make sense. Think about where some of these guys went to school. Charles Barkley went to Auburn. Nobody thought about basketball. Joe Johnson went to Arkansas. What was it? Corliss Williamson, Antonio McDyess I think it was in Alabama. These guys was going to one school and being one dude. Dominique went, like I said, when Dominique went to Georgia, that was crazy. One player went to one school and it was like, God, these fools is good now. Who they got? One player. That's it. People forget like it was that serious. The only unfair school back in the was North Carolina. It was UNC. UNC used to have like 5, 6 fools. You're like, man, how you get all these people to go here? It don't make sense. Kentucky went on a run. They was getting person after person, but like people will go somewhere and it just be like I ain't gonna front, like back in the day, Bobby Hurley. People don't realize Bobby Hurley a legend in these basketball streets. Y'all lucky that fool got hurt. We saw, and UCLA was some killers, but you saw Bobby Hurley like, Jesus, who that little dude? People forget stuff like that. Karl Malone went to Louisiana Tech. You like, what? Louisiana Tech? Who is this big old dude from Louisiana? Exactly. That's how it really was back in the day. In football, it was the same. You know, people is University of Miami, Florida State, Florida, Michigan, Notre Dame. Notre Dame started falling off because people was like, I'm sick of this. Ohio State has been the only, I can say, sports powerhouse in football that's for the last 30 years. I remember some dogs coming out of Ohio State when I was a kid. From then to now. Quarterbacks was trash, but everybody else, it was good. You know what I'm saying? It's Clemson fell off and came back, you know. Exactly, like, you know, Clemson fell off, came back. People forget Pittsburgh. They would fall off, player fall off, get a player fall off. It was crazy. Everybody who we consider the great right now has outshined a lot of people. Like people forget that Drew Brees went to Purdue because he was too short to play quarterback, in my opinion. That's what they was doing. He was in Purdue. Mike Allstott, Purdue. Like crazy. People, who is that went to Fort Valley State? Oh, I forgot. It was like a Hall of Famer or something like that. He went to Fort Valley State. You know, the 80s and the 80s to the early 90s, early to mid 90s, that's what HBCUs was killing. Y'all forget all the people that came out of HBCUs in the 80s and 90s. Seriously. They had hoopers too. Y'all forget Avery Johnson went to Southern. You know, people forget. You know, Charles Oakley, Norfolk or whatever. I want to say even Big Ben Wallace went to HBCU if I ain't mistaken. You know, but nowadays you don't see people come out of those environments and just dog people. Now I gotta double back to this music real quick. I don't think, and I'm gonna be trifling when I say this. Uh, the Silk Sonic album with Anderson .Paak and Bruno Mars. That's probably one of the best albums that came out in years, in like 10 years. Guess what? They made an 80s album. I listen to music nowadays. I've been listening to music for years. I've been cutting it off. Because at the end of the day, what you're seeing is a bunch of people. How many of these songs y'all think y'all gonna be banging in 20 years? Real talk. Like, how many of these songs y'all think y'all gonna play 20 years from now? Think about it. I'm a rap fan. Reggie White, Jerome Brown. Boy, that was trifling when they was together in Philadelphia. That was trifling. You know, how many of y'all realize, man, like, I was born in New Orleans. To this day, I say Juvenile was the best one out of everybody. I know people love Wayne. I get it. Wayne did a lot of work. But Wayne ain't never made an album better than 400 Degrees. I can tell you that right now. I know it's the Carter, the Carter, the Carter. You don't remember album songs from the Carter like you remember 400 Degrees. There's not a Carter album that keep up with 400 Degrees. Not one. Not one. Now, that's just my issue. It's a mix of the 70s on it, but that's pretty much an 80s album, dog. That's an 80s album. That's what that is, an 80s album. That's Freddie Jackson, you know, kind of, you know, fast but slow 80s album. It's a little bit like Rick James, a little bit. That's an 80s album. You can't rock with stuff like that. I listen to, you know, I'm sorry. I grew up in Chicago too. I'm sorry. I ain't gonna be listening to Lil Durk. You know, think about Lil Durk ain't gonna be playing in 20 years. I don't think so. I just don't. I could be wrong. Like people listen to what's the cat's name out of Buffalo, Benny the Butcher, you know, Conway and all that. Oh, hey, I don't think. Nope, I don't see it, bro. You don't even think of R&B singers now. You know, like they ain't really been an R. Like let me say this: the 80s, 90s, and 2000s were so good. That Jamie Foxx made a better album than most singers because he was basically a child of the 80s, 90s. He was getting his stride in the 80s, 90s, 2000s. Think about that. Jamie Foxx made better music right back when he came out with his with them 2 albums, 2 or 3 albums, than a lot of people. I say like when I when people say people couldn't make it back in the day, Chris Brown could make it at any time period. That boy he cold. He cold. Outside of him, I don't know, player. I don't know, player. You know, all these people come and go, and they come and go. People have one song. They were one hit wonders in the 80s and 90s and 2000s. They were one hit wonders in the 80s and 90s and 2000s. And here's the difference. They got one hit wonders whose songs still play for stuff. Think about that. Tony Terry still got that When I'm With You is still a wedding song to this day. I give you the 2000s. What's old boy Vic Wobble? People doing a, you know what I'm saying, doing an electric slide to wobble to this day. Because I don't think that was the 2010s. I think that was the 2000s. Think about it. There are people with one hit who still banging like, hey man, you know what we finna do when we cut this song on. And I'm gonna tell you, and what I'm gonna say is really ode to the 60s and 70s. But I heard Beyonce remake that song. She remade Before I Let Go, and she remade the Isley Brothers song. Man, she can't sing them songs like that. She great though, but she can't recreate that. And she first came out in the 90s. Like, man, I'm telling you. It is bad. It's bad. Think about it. And I forgot 100 million. Janet Jackson sold 100 million albums. Think about that. Think about that. We had families that was killing. Families that who family this is. And I ain't even break like. Do y'all realize there is nobody like I could say right now. I can't think of nobody in the last since I said the 2000s, from 2010 to 2023. I can't think of nobody that makes better music than Tony. And Tony was underrated in their time. Nobody could sing like Anita Baker. Nobody. Nobody could, like, real talk. Tony Braxton was like an Anita Baker remix, and people can't keep up with her right now as far as the songs that she made. People love Erykah Badu. That was the 90s, player. That was the 90s. What's up, me too? 80s, 90s, 2000s. I'm sorry, can't be touched. Matter of fact, since I said can't be touched, you do realize Roy Jones Jr. was a better rapper than some of these rappers right now, and he was knocking people out for a living. He got a hit record, a couple of them. You know, can't be touched, one of them. I smoke, I drink, I supposed to stop, but I can't. Roy Jones is a better rapper than Fools right now. You do Shaq sold more records than some of these rappers. You understand what I'm saying? Like, think about it. I ain't gonna throw Kobe in there. Kobe, no, we're not gonna do Kobe. No. You do realize Deion Sanders had a hit record. He must be the mind. These dudes were doing everything. Y'all don't. I don't think you understand. When people say people are different, they were different for real. You know what I'm saying? They were different. And watch this. He said New Jack City was even better. Truth be told, people forget. Five Heartbeats was better than New Jack City. They came out the same weekend. That's a classic. That's a classic. Milli Vanilli don't count, but Milli Vanilli sold a whole lot of records. You know, that's a classic. But think about it. Okay, it's basketball. It's basketball season right now. I love certain people in basketball. I got love. I got love for Russell Westbrook. I don't care what people say. Russell Westbrook, Dame Lillard, they dogs. They dogs for real. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, do I got love for LeBron? Absolutely. Steph, absolutely. That's nice. But see, let me say something. I wouldn't take none. I don't take none of them over Kobe. I wouldn't take nothing, and I wouldn't take none of them fools over Tim Duncan. And they all great. I wouldn't take them over Tim Duncan. Yeah, absolutely. 80s and 90s basketball was see, bro. Like, people don't realize how You know what I'm saying? Look at that. He brought up Dougie Fresh. Hey, Shot Town all day. Derrick Rose gonna always be. He's always saluted. But think about it. Uh, uh, do you know how many hoopers came out of Chicago for real? Let me tell you something. In Chicago, I don't even care to say this. I love Derrick Rose, but Zeke always number one in Chicago. I'm gonna just be honest about it. Isaiah Thomas is there ain't no Zeke is number one. The A ball is trash now. Oh my God. B ball, I'm bugging. You know, it ain't even about Kobe being the closest thing to Jordan. It's just if I want to win a game, give me Tim Duncan or Kobe. If I want to win, forget all that. If I want to win, like think about it. There ain't these guys are so big, and these guys are so skilled, right? Now, if you drop Shaq off right in this era right now, think about like if you drop Shaq off, that's an easy 50. Missing free throws and all, that's an easy 50. Easy. I ain't even got to work. People talk about, oh man, if Mike was playing right now, Mike could get up. If Shaq was playing right now, there'll be nobody to stop him. Virtually nobody. People forget how trifling it was to watch Shaq play. Like, oh my God, this is bad. There'd be nobody to stop him. Nobody. Uh-oh. Speaking of, see, bro, he brought a ball MJG. I could bring up Scarface. Like it's people in the 90s and 2000s in particular in rap. Ain't let me explain something to y'all. There's nobody better than Bone, Thugs and Harmony, right now. They can't even rap fast right now. There's nobody like Bone Thugs. I ain't even gotta go to Biggie. I ain't even gotta go to Pac. I don't. You ain't gotta go to 50 Cent. I think Big Pun could rap these people under the bridge. I think Redman could destroy anybody. Anybody. Then and now. You know what I'm saying? Like, Busta Rhymes is far better than anybody. And he don't even be saying nothing. People don't realize, like, people really don't get the level of ability we talking about. Like, people forget Ice Cube at his height. People forget, oh shoot. Like you know what? I'm gonna go back. People forget how good CeeLo Green actually is. I don't see no like CeeLo Green was basically Bone Thugs and Harmony and CeeLo Green was basically the template for Drake. And I think I take what Chris Brown and Drake could make it in any era because Drake can make hits. I don't care. He make hits. That fool can make he can make a hit in his sleep. So I gotta say that. Jeru the Damager. Jeru the Damager was but that's one song. I think about some of this stuff and I'm like, bro, they couldn't mess with none of these people. Like, think about that. They could not mess with none of these people. Dude, people forget that Supreme Clientele, Ghostface Supreme Clientele was considered a classic album. People can't even, there's almost not a rapper who made a song better than All That I Got Is You. Ghostface Killer, that first album, the Iron Man album. There's very few times where somebody could, it was Dear Mama, All That I Got Is You. I would say Slipping. Like a record that was emotional. The Wu had another, what was that joint? You can't drink your life away. I just saw that on the thing. That song, Get Up, Get Out, Get Something. Um, I'm missing one. I'm missing one. But they had some joints that people was like, yo, like people would listen to, just be like, hey, I need this vibe. Because this some real stuff people are saying right now. Like, uh, 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 for me personally, I used to love Nas, the second album, The Message. You know, Fake Thug, No Love, You Get the Slug, CB4, Gusto. Yo, that was it. That was it. They ain't had a person better that made a better single than Hey. People realize bands still play Hey, Crucial Conflict to this day. To this day. You know, the Dog Pound album, boy. Outkast and Goody Mob. Spice was a monster. Spice was a monster. You know what I'm saying? And truth be told, like I said, back in the day, I used to listen to stuff in the Bay. Like I used to JT, the bigger figure. You know what I'm saying? E40, he was completely different. You know what I'm saying? Like, of course, we already know what the rest is. We already know what the rest is. I could leave NWA out of that. Like, I know people, you know, me, I know which Takeoff got killed. I'm sorry about that, you know, but there ain't there ain't movements that people get like that where people were just crushing folks. Y'all do realize even though it was botchy, Jay-Z and R. Kelly album is better than most of the stuff that come out right now. Man, this dude, hey, they don't know about who know about psychodrama like that. That's magic. What? Look, I'm from the West Side. Don't play it out. Don't play it. You know what I'm saying? People don't know about that. People do not know about psychodrama. I'm getting blowed as a blow with Jermaine. But that whole era was different. And that's why I went to the 2000s, because in the 2000s you had guys that was just monsters. Monsters. People could say what they want, but Eminem, I think Eminem's third album, the Eminem Show, actually was his best album. That's in my opinion. But that second album, that Criminal, that's one of the best hip hop songs ever. Just like I would say Nas's One Mic is probably the best hip hop song ever. That hit so hard, it didn't make no sense. You know what I'm saying? The real Young Buck. Like, the reason like I said, I'm gonna tie this together. The reason I say what I'm saying is because you had to do more to be seen as great and talented. And people from the 80s, 90s, and 2000s have had extreme longevity because of, now you can even put LeBron in there technically because of the 2000s, but they have extremely great longevity because to be great, you had to be something. Like, people don't realize, like, do y'all realize I ain't bring up LL Cool J not once? You know, I got a Maywood hoodie in the closet. Don't make me wear my joint. You know what I'm saying? You know, it is what it is. West Side till I die. But LL Cool J is like, you can't say much. You know what I'm saying? You can't say nothing. LL Cool J is one of the greatest, bar none, period, just on longevity alone. We say that about Jay-Z, but I can honestly tell you, LL Cool J got more classics than LL Cool J has more classics than Jay-Z. Classic songs. Maybe not albums, because it's kind of close. But LL Cool J has, you do realize LL Cool J got a tour after one of his hits. Rock the Bells is a staple in hip hop. You know what I'm saying? It don't make no sense. So for me, it's like, hey man, we gotta. To me, that was the best era: 80s, 90s, 2000s. And I'm gonna tell you, one of the reasons is because it wasn't it wasn't necessarily oversaturated. The poverty was crazy, so the creativity was higher. Because a lot of y'all forget in the 70s, people talk about creativity, but the 80s, that's when they really started taking stuff out of the schools for young people. So people had to be more. That was part of the whole hip hop thing. Because in the 70s, the late 70s started taking music out of the schools. And then people just started getting bigger and bigger and bigger and better at doing stuff. Same thing with sports. You know, 80s to 90s, that AAU stuff started taking over. But if you used to be a dog in your city, you pretty much was great everywhere. You know, it, this fool gonna say that Chicago South Side is, man, shut up. West Side is the best side. I don't hear that bullshit. West Side is the best side. That's that. I don't hear that bullshit. But that's what it is nowadays, man. You know, see, Cube like it. Yeah, you can say that. You know, people don't realize H Town. People don't think about 112 now. You know, Cube, boy, y'all lucky. Uh, how about to say Dino? Was it Shazam? Oh man, the lead singer from H Town. Oh man, he was dog. If he was still alive right now, it'd be over with. Like I don't think y'all realize people loved that brother. Oh man, condition, Jesus, man, condition was him up. Stokely still making hits. I brought up Tony earlier, D. Like Raphael Sadiq is probably one of the best songwriters of all time. You know, it was Dino, and my cousin was friends with him, man. They was real tight too. You know, he said South Side best, whatever, man. The West Side say the best side. There you go. Keep that with you. Thank you. It's Dino, man. Like people don't realize like whole what are you killer. You know what? When it comes to H Town, it's always Scarface. I'm gonna just be real with you. It's always Scarface. People don't know. People outside of Houston don't know about Hawk and Fat Pat because I think Fat Pat died like in 2000 or something like that. Like I will say this: Fat Pat, if Fat Pat wouldn't have died, y'all would have known about Fat Pat. Like I wasn't even a fan of Houston rappers when I got here because I got here in 2000. But Fat Pat was for real. Yeah, I remember Gangsta Nip. I forgot about. You know what? Thank you for. I forgot about Guy. You say I forgot about Blackstreet. I forgot about Guy. And Dave Hollister came from Blackstreet and had a dope solo album. But Guy, bro, Guy and Aaron Hall, they can't mess with it, bro. You know. Hey man, you gotta yeah. Hey man, you gonna make me throw up gang signs and stuff over here, man. I ain't talking about all that, man. About that crucial conflict, man, them double C's, man. You know. But real talk, like why I'm saying what I'm saying is this. Even people who have a hustler mentality, Ray J had dope music in the 90s. Even people who I forgot about that. Yeah. People who was in the 80s, 90s, and 2000s, they had to, they made it easy on people from us in this particular era. People don't realize how easy life is for some people because of the peoples in the 80s, 90s, and 2000s. Think about it. Man, I ain't even gonna bring up Keith Sweat, dog. LSG, I ain't even bring up Gerald Levert. What that tell you? I ain't even bring up Gerald Levert. People don't realize. People really, because of his death, people don't realize how serious Gerald Levert was. He's the son of Eddie Levert. People don't realize how serious that was. Immature, yeah, but LSG was underrated. They only had one album. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's bad, bro. You know, you see, because nowadays, I will say this. What is that young lady's name? Her. That girl can write some songs. I think her is a dope songwriter. I wish she would have been in the 80s, 90s, and 2000s. Because truth be told, she could survive too as a songwriter. Lord have mercy, she can make a dope song. You know, but a lot of these folks couldn't make it. Like, that's why people like I don't want to say that, but I was about to. I really was about to be trifling to say that. Children's cartoon shows, yeah. No, 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 no. You got to go farther back than that, kid. You got to go farther back than that, because truth be told, most people who the Looney Tunes, you know, Tom and Jerry, and we was watching those in the 80s, but those came out prior. Looney Tunes, Tom and Jerry, Woody Woodpecker, Chilly Willy the Penguin, G.I. Joe, Thundercats, Silverhawks, like that whole era. Ooh, then that, yeah, you can say that. Yeah, I feel that. Like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, I think that was the early 90s, if I'm not mistaken. He brought a Warren Sapp. Is it from 82 to 2002? I give it past 2002, fam. I ain't gonna lie. Cause Nas was still rocking, dog. You know, Nas was still rocking. Most underrated was who? Tony Thompson? You know what? I don't think most people know who Tony Thompson is. I really don't. You know, matter of fact, what's your boy name? God dog it. Mark Morrison, Return of the Mac. People don't realize how like people still play Return of the Mac to this day. They don't get that. That's still a hit to this day. Return of the Mac is like, y'all brought up Anita, you know. I brought up Luther. I said Freddie Jackson a little bit, but I don't think people realize how big Freddie Jackson was. I go back. Do y'all realize when Rick James came out with street songs in the 80s? It's timeless. Like, that's my issue. Like, I don't see any. I don't think there's gonna be as many timeless people after the 2000s. I think right now talent is at a low, and because talent is at a low, at some point it's gonna be difficult, and people are gonna rise up. You know, the reason why I'm talking because, like in basketball, they don't play all the star players don't really play the full season no more. In football, you added a 17th game, and now you got people who barely getting over 1,000 yards rushing and receiving with 17 games. It don't make no sense to me. You know what I'm saying? In baseball, I don't know what y'all did to baseball. I really don't. Y'all ran all the real talent out of baseball, and now you see it every now and then, and that's a problem. Because all the ball is either, you know, truth be told, um, baseball lost all its athletes. You know, y'all don't like people forget that people gave up football to play baseball. Frank Thomas was a football player that was dope at baseball. Dave Winfield was a football player that was dope at baseball. Deion Sanders said if he could actually play baseball better, he would have left the NFL for baseball. They don't realize, like, y'all don't think Ricky Henderson could play football? You crazy. Y'all don't think King Griffey could play football? You crazy. You know, it was baseball started dying down after, I would say, Cal Ripken and Ozzie Smith was on their way out. You know, Sammy Sosa, Mark McGwire, and Barry Bonds kept it. And Jim Thome was very solid. People forget about Jim Thome. You know what I'm saying? The 90s heavyweights. Yeah, that's what I was telling my dog. I was telling, because he brought up Ali and them, and I was like, no, I think the heavyweights division really ended with Klitschko. I was like, it was great from Ali all the way to Klitschko. After that, it just fell off for a while. It's kind of back now. Like I love Tyson Fury. I think Tyson Fury is phenomenal. I like Deontay Wilder, but the whole division is weak. It's weak. And right now, boxing, I love boxing. That's like my second favorite sport. But I'm gonna be honest with you, and what I'm about to say gonna be trifling. I think the boxers nowadays scary. I think they don't really want to fight nobody. I don't think like they all fighters, but now they don't want no smoke. And everybody trying to be Floyd, but Floyd really fought dogs back to back to back to back to back to back. These fools waiting 2 and 3 years to fight a dog, and he was right there the whole time. You know, my favorite boxer in the like besides Floyd, like my favorites was in that era. Floyd, I like Miguel Cotto, I like Sergio Martinez, I love Sean Porter. Like in this era, like Sean Porter, I like Errol Spence more, but he got into that accident. So I kind of give Errol Spence kind of a pass because that accident can make a person punchy. So him not fighting as much, I get it. I get it. I like Terrence Crawford, but my favorites all the time was, you know, Roy Jones Jr., Marvin Hagler, Floyd. That's just what it is. That's just what it is. I like Tyson, but I ain't never seen nobody like Roy Jones Jr. ever in my doggone life. I ain't never seen nobody like Roy Jones. You never see nobody like Roy ever. Love James Tony too. I love James Tony too. Like he, B Hop, he a dog too. You know what I'm saying? But I like Tank. Shakur gonna be the best. Devin is underrated. Like people sleep on Devin, but that's my point. Like all of them around the same. You do realize, like in the 90s, 2000s, they would fight. Shakur want that smoke with all of them, but you know what I'm saying? People forget, like, people will fight, man. You don't have remember when Pacquiao and Barrera, they fought like 2 or 3 times. Pacquiao Marquez fought 4 times. Barrera and shoot, I forgot. Barrera and Eric Morales. Those were fights, dog. Those were fights. People forget, like, you know, Vernon Forrest and Shane Mosley. That was some real stuff. Roy Jones, man, please. You forget Roy Jones is like really Roy Jones. Is it Roy Jones, Bob Fitzsimmons? I want to say it's Bob Fitzsimmons. Sugar Ray Robinson, I believe. I don't think it's Sugar Ray Robinson. But Bob Fitzsimmons and really James Toney went from middleweight to heavyweight and won championships. Man, that era, Roy was one of the best of all time, period, hands down. You know, thank you, Sweet Pea. Oh my God. Sweet Pea was, man, hey, you're right. I appreciate you bringing up Sweet Pea. Yeah, Sweet Pea was, say, dog. And yes, he beat Chavez, and yes, he also beat De La Hoya, and they robbed him in that fight. You know what I'm saying? I love Chavez, but he beat Chavez and he beat De La Hoya. You know, people forget Tito. Tito was dope. You say Roy had a glass jaw, but Tito would get knocked down all the time and come back and win. Roy was getting knocked out at the end of his career. Yeah, that's true, but let's be honest, man. You ain't never seen a fighter like Roy Jones like ever in your life to do the stuff he did. You know, he ain't no steroid Jones, nothing. You know, the reason he did what happened was you're not supposed to drop that much weight and fight. Y'all do realize Roy Jones did something that most fighters wouldn't do. He gained 25 pounds to win a heavyweight title and then lost 25 pounds to defend a light heavyweight title. No, fighters don't do that. Fighters don't do that no more. You know, yeah. You know, at the end to be fight because you don't do that to your body. You're not supposed to do that to your body, especially when you're fighting. You know, but who's willing to do that nowadays, though? Think about that. You know, people talk crazy about, you know, what's old boy name? I got mad respect for him because he's doing the same. Usyk, Alexander Usyk. That's who fighting Tyson Fury. That fool, he said, I'm gonna put on some weight and I'm moving up. Forget all that. But he wouldn't move up and then go back down and wait to like, light heavyweight or cruiserweight. He wouldn't do that because he'd get killed. You know what I'm saying? Like, think about it. Even when you bring up Roy, beating Roy made people career. I like Antonio Tarver, but him knocking out Roy made his career. Glenn Johnson, him beating Roy made his career. Think about that. Didn't he didn't really duck G-Man, dog. And people forget about, I'm sorry about that. People forget about G-Man, that ending, man. Oh my God. He really didn't duck G-Man. I hate to bring McKillen up, man, because you know how it ended. That just, that hurt my heart. You know what I'm saying? But because remember, he fought Roy fought Bernard Hopkins early and washed him. You know what I'm saying? And then to get the title, he fought James Toney and washed him. At his best, he was washing Hall of Famers. What's old boy? He lost his first loss to. He was talking trash like he actually beat Roy because Roy hit him when he was on a mat. He knocked that fool out in one round. You do realize, like, Roy still got the best highlight in boxing when he had his hands behind his back and he knocked the boy out. That's still the best highlight in boxing, man. He was just sitting there playing chicken with him. Drop. It was who am I killing for? Was that Nigel Benn? I want to say it was Nigel Benn. That's just I don't even want to bring that up. Forget all that. Yeah, he was like, when people say different, Roy was different. You got to remember, like, Roy basically, we love Floyd now, but Floyd was fighting when Roy was fighting. He didn't exist like that because of Roy. And Floyd was a monster Floyd was, when he was fighting Chico, you know what I'm saying? When he was beating the brakes off of people, Floyd was kicking, like, when he was young, Shamba Mitchell and all that, he was beating the brakes off people. But Roy was that dude. Y'all do realize you talking about, Roy wanted to fight Tyson. That's why he went up. He won the belt to fight Tyson. That's what happened. That's what he wanted to end with, beating Tyson. But that fight didn't happen. That's why he went down and wound up losing that fight. Oh, Julian Jackson was a G, dog. Oh, Julian Jackson was a G. They talk, but even in the 80s, like Aaron Pryor, you ain't seen nobody like Aaron Pryor now. Like, Aaron Pryor was a whole nother. Aaron Pryor was a whole nother animal, dog. You ain't. Like, y'all forget like, Aaron Pryor was somebody people was ducking. Aaron Pryor was somebody people was like, I don't want that smoke, bro. Because I want to say Sugar Ray was like, Aaron Pryor, no, bro, none of that. And that's somebody that people ran from. But, it's different, dog. It's different. Oh, yeah, he brought up Sweet Pea earlier. I love Sweet Pea. I love Sweet Pea, dog. Yeah, see, she read the duff public TV. No, I don't want that problem, bro. Like, like, people don't get how. Let me say it this way, and I brought his name up earlier. Ricky Henderson. There is nobody who will ever. Do you realize Ricky Henderson's so good? They made a character of him in Major League. That's what Wesley Snipes was in Major League, was Ricky Henderson. That's how underrated. That's how good people were in the 80s at certain things that you could make a movie out of. That was ridiculous. Oh yeah, Ricky. Ricky was that dude. But Tony Gwynn, another one. You ain't gonna see nobody like that again. Plus and that is best of all, right? Even the Streets was a little bit better. I think it got bad in the 90s. It got bad in the 90s. Barry was the best I ever saw. In baseball, I can't say that. Barry was dope though. I ain't gonna lie. Barry was underrated to be as great as he was, but I ain't gonna front. King Griffey was on the field. King Griffey was electric, dog. He wasn't a hitter like Barry, but King Griffey was electric, dog. King Griffey was probably, arguably, the greatest show on turf as far as baseball was concerned. King Griffey was that dude. Frank Thomas. Oh yeah, Big Hurt. I was happy. I remember Big Hurt. I went to Comiskey Park to watch the Big Hurt. Him, Harold Baines was my favorite. Remember when Bo was there? It was different. It was bad before Barrett was bad before the big name. Man, what Barrett was like a 3-time MVP before he got swole. I don't care. Like Barrett was one of the greats. Period. Barry leads the league in home runs and don't even have 3,000 hits. That'll tell you something. And even though people say he was on roids, I get it. He was on roids, whatever. They made steroids legal in baseball at that era. So even if he was on roids, guess what? It was legal. And now you get to see what happens if you let a brother be on roids. It's unreachable. Don't do that no more. Oh, Roger Clemens was a man though. The Rocket was the man before the steroid stuff. Y'all, you forget about Tom Glavine. You forget about Greg Maddux. You forget about the big unit Randy Johnson. It was I can't do. You know what? I love Andre Rison, but man, one of my older homeboys who was in the league had to school me. Andre only had like 2,000-yard seasons or something. I love Andre Rison though, but y'all gotta understand, like Jimmy Smith is better than Andre Rison. You do and I love Andre Rison, but Jimmy Smith, I would put him higher than Andre Rison. I seriously would. Sterling Sharp was better than Andre Rison. I don't care if his career was shortened. He was better than Andre Rison. And I love Andre Rison, but it's certain people that I got to put ahead of him. You know what I'm saying? Torrey Holt better than Andre Rison. And I love Spider-Man. I really do, but there were some people that from that 80s, 90s era that don't get the attention. Oh yeah. Yeah. Jerry, Barry, people don't realize, man, people didn't like Emmitt Smith in the 90s just because of Barry. It was like, oh man, Emmitt was getting all the rushing records, touchdowns, and nothing ain't wrong with Emmitt. Emmitt was a dope running back. Don't think Emmitt didn't have no shake, because I seen him shake people out their shoes at a game. I saw him shake people out their shoes, but Barry was just an animal. Barry was just completely different. There's never been nobody like Barry, and truth be told, like people who get even from that era, Ricky Waters don't get enough credit. Marshall Faulk don't get enough credit from that era. People don't realize how serious Curtis Martin, in my opinion, was my favorite running back. Real talk. He don't get enough credit by how consistent he was. Steven Jackson, the running back, not the basketball, the running back, don't get enough credit. People forget, like people in that era was really, really with that. Yeah, he had a great line, but dog, I seen him shake two people and make them run into each other in the open field on the swing pass. That let me know Emmitt got it like that. I like Ricky Williams, but it took him a while to get his stride, man. It took him a while to get his stride. I honestly, I'll take Warwick Dunn over Ricky Williams. I would take I'll take Jamal Lewis over Ricky Williams. Bo was awesome. Bo was awesome. But in that era, I would, Jamal Lewis. I mean not Jamal Williams. Jamal Lewis over Ricky Williams. Jamal Lewis was that he was proud. He was proud. And people forget about Warwick, man. Warwick was real. You know what I'm saying? Ricky, I mean, hmm. I ain't gotta say him because I'm gonna get somebody in that ballpark that was on the cusp, you know. Like real talk, I'll be watching the pivot. Fred Taylor need to be in the Hall of Fame. I'm gonna be honest. Fred Taylor need to be in the Hall of Fame. Real talk. As an athlete, Fred Taylor, there ain't no way Fred Taylor shouldn't be in the Hall of Fame. Ask them football players, and Fred Taylor was that dude. Corey Dillon, I take Corey Dillon should probably be in the Hall of Fame also. People forget about that, you know. But like that era of sports, that era of music, man, that was legit. That was legit. I've been on here too long though. I appreciate y'all for rocking with me. I'm trying to see if this YouTube thing gonna be better than StreamYard. So I'm gonna give it a few shots, and if I can get it to work right, because it was messed up the first time. Let me say this for all you folks who are gonna try to go live on this. If you like on StreamYard, you can set up your live on your phone and then just get on the computer. On this, if you set it up on your phone, you're gonna have to get on it on your phone. That's why I had the debacle earlier. Because I tried to get on the computer and it didn't work. Terrell Davis, he already in the Hall of Fame, but I wouldn't. No, 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 no. I'm not. I'll take Jamal Lewis over Terrell Davis too. Like before Terrell Davis got hurt, I got to give him that. You know what I'm saying? Phenomenal. Garrison Hurst, I put up there. Garrison Hurst was a real one. You know what I'm saying? He was a real one. TD, I mean, he had a short career. You know what I'm saying? You can put him up there with Bo Jackson. Like Bo need to get in there. Who the heck? I don't know, like TD, yeah. You know what though? I will say this. They don't give enough credit to Rod Smith. I think Rod Smith and Ed McCaffrey don't get enough credit even in Denver or outside of Denver. But I don't know about TD. I don't know. I'm glad they put Edgerrin James finally in the Hall of Fame, but it's people I'll take over TD. I'll take Tiki Barber over TD, honestly. But it took him a while to get started too. But yeah, man, I'm gonna get out of here, man. Like, share, subscribe, or die trying. Catch y'all on the next one. Peace. I already said Adrian Pete. Yeah, he a dog. Ain't no way. Peace.